I don't even know if we really talked about it like that, but narcissists have to be the best, the most right, and own everything and control everyone all the time. I see that in hustle culture. I see that in girl boss culture. I see it in wanting a man or woman to fit your impossible standards. I see it in thinking that your way of thinking is the only correct way of thinking.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. That's why no one can have a conversation anymore. Because my way is the way.
Yep.
My way of thinking is the right way, and your way of thinking is harmful. It's toxic.
People cannot take constructive criticism.
Yep.
Shout out to my little sister. I love you.
Okay.
Miracle know that, oh, yeah, I ruffle the feathers. That's just in me, you know. So, hey, we gonna make some change. We gonna make it shake, as we say.
That's right. And we gonna move on to the next sign of narcissism too. Narcissists constantly need attention. Even just by following you around the house, asking you to find things, constantly saying something to grab your attention. And validation for a narcissist counts only if it comes from others. This is something I also see in the culture all the time, right? On social media or in certain minority groups that want everyone else to validate them, or their whole identity falls apart, essentially. Or trolls on the internet. You know, people like attention. I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that you like attention, but it comes to a point where that attention fuels you. And I think a lot of it nowadays stems from like social media and stuff like that. Like that added factor is really big because, again, like we talked about in the first microtrends video with social media, you know, that dopamine hit every time you get a like.
Yep.
And that validation is really fuels your confidence level.
Yes.
You know,
it gets all of us.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Or again, validation for a narcissist counts only if it comes from others, right? But narcissists need that validation. And so what do we see a lot from certain groups of people that look for acceptance or tolerance or that validation, right? They want people to accept their way of thinking. It's not enough that we just accept that they exist and that we can coexist. They want you to also adopt their way of thinking. It's no longer enough to just sit there and say, hey, we cool. We think differently, but we're cool. No, that's not enough anymore. You have to think what I think. You have to. Otherwise, you're a bad person.
That's deep. That's
narcissistic.
Yes. And that's a heart problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that's also you being self-conscious about yourself, to where I need that quote unquote validation. I need you to, it's almost like, hey, I want you to accept me being, I mean, possibly I could be wrong, you know, in some things. It's almost like, you know, what do you call the people who actually try to have a relationship with a kid or with a pedophile? Yeah, a pedophile. A pedophile, you know.
Oh, so what are you talking about?
So, you know, those people like, hey, I identify as a child and I can have a relationship with a child. No.
Yes,
no,
exactly.
Bro, you're dead wrong. It's two left shoes.
It's like, where does the line end, you know?
That's narcissism.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought it up, sister.
Absolutely. Right. So also, narcissists need everything to be perfect. They believe they should be perfect, that you should be perfect. Everything should happen exactly the way as expected, and life should play out exactly as they envision it, right? Do you meet those people who get easily frustrated when things don't go according to their plan, right? Or have you ever called yourself a perfectionist? Or have you ever even played around and said you probably have OCD? You know, I see this in the culture all the time too. You know, people want things exactly the way they want it. And if it doesn't go that way, they get frustrated and they take it out on everyone around them. They might not think that they do, but that little attitude is still taking it out on everyone. The attitude that you have when things don't go your way, you might not think anyone cares about it, but they do, because you're still, pushing that attitude towards the people around you who have nothing to do with your need for perfection.
Ooh. Hey, y'all. She's cooking that. I promise you, she's cooking like, you know, Chef
That
Curry
is
with the pot.
narcissism. Watch yourself.